Halftime Howie here, and a topic that we keep talking about because it's so important to raise awareness is suicide prevention. There's always a reason why someone should get help. But anyway, we're happy to welcome in Rachel Zalesnik. Rachel, talk about, first of all, you've been affected several times by good friends, close friends taking their own life. Talk about that ordeal.
I have, unfortunately, throughout my years, experienced some cases in which some of my closest friends have taken their own lives, and I think that, as you said before, it's a really crucial topic that makes people very uncomfortable to discuss, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't discuss it. Unfortunately for my friends, and the moral of the story of what I've learned is that you never know what goes on behind closed doors. Some of those friends were achieving straight A's, and they were seemingly happy when you engage with them, but I didn't know one of them was battling depression himself. And it's, as you said before, it's really important that they just receive the support that they need.
Yeah, here in Long Beach, we've been devastated by two young men taking their own life in the last year, couple of years. The last one was 13-year-old Brendan Carr, 13-year-old. So sad. He was a young man, gifted singer, dancer, had very talented, and yet he was bullied in school and had some issues, and one day he couldn't take it anymore. And I think that's probably so common, is that your friends, even though on the outside they might have appeared happy, there might have been demons that just made living just too unbearable for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things. As I said before, you don't really know what they're going through, but that's why it's important to just be as caring and always be willing to lend a hand to everyone that you possibly can, knowing that they might be going through something very challenging in their lives. And there are also cases on the flip side in which you feel guilty and think that you could have done something more. But just know that going forward, lending the support out and getting that awareness out is the best way to go about it.
And we can't stress this strong enough, is that if you're ever in an encounter with someone and they tell you that they're very depressed, they're facing a lot of anxiety, or they're even contemplating suicide, stress to them in the strongest terms possible: get help. Call 911, call here in Long Island, the Long Island Crisis Center, go to the hospital, but don't take it lightly. Act firmly and strong, and make sure in the strongest terms possible that person should get help immediately, not tomorrow, not in a couple of days, right away. Deal with it immediately.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's the best way to go about it, and it might be uncomfortable, but it's about them, not about you in that instance. So
yeah, and you know what I mean, and it can happen to anyone. I know recently this great singer, Cornell, a legend, performed in front of a packed audience in Detroit, got many standing ovations. The crowd went crazy over him. He was gifted, went back in his hotel room that night and took his own life. So it can happen to anyone. No one is exempt from this horrible thing.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that something with the rise of social media and the advancement of it, I think that's another platform that bullying can happen on, and you see it every day in the news, unfortunately, and the way that can impact an individual is absolutely obscene. So just being mindful of that as well, that communication transpires various platforms, and just...
I always harken back to is that, when the awful Robin Williams tragedy happened, a lot of awareness and conversation was about suicide, because here was this famous person, well-known comedian, actor, activist, who was so well-known and so beloved, and whenever anyone saw him, he was always happy and laughing and joking. And then when he took his own life, it created such a hysteria, and there was so much talk about it. But I kind of feel that for the moment it was talked about, but again, it kind of got swept under the rug. And even though it raised awareness at the time, when a couple of weeks went on, it just went right on being where no one talked about it as much again.
Yeah, what happened to Robin Williams is really, really unfortunate. That is just another great example of where, even though initially people have there's this shock that goes through the media, in daily conversation, and then it kind of does get swept under the rug. And I think that lends itself to the discomfort that people feel when they speak about such controversial and such serious topics, which is why it's really important to have segments like these to continue talking about it.
And you know what? About a month ago, when the great golfer Tiger Woods had that horrible episode where he was pulled over by some policemen and was so out of it, he thought he was in California when he was actually in Florida. And a lot of people said, "Oh, what a terrible thing, look how far he's fallen," and they looked at it as a negative. I looked at it completely different. I looked at it as a positive in the fact that this is a cry out for help. This is someone saying, I'm in the depths of a deep depression, anxiety, I'm having some issues, but this is a great way for a person like even a Tiger Woods to get the help and treatment that he needs. So I look at it as a positive that he was reaching out for help. This is fortunate that it happened because now his issues are to the forefront, and now he can get help for some very serious issues that are, bringing him down.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective to have. Just always being mindful of the signs that people show, and especially if they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, that's a huge sign, and hopefully it gets better from there.
Yeah, and lastly, they always say you can never judge a book by its cover, and that even though someone might appear to be happy and everything is great, sometimes we have to dig a little deeper to find out if that person is truly happy in their life.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even just something as simple as going out of your way to ask someone that you see on the daily how they're doing can make a huge difference. So just making sure that you're being as supportive as possible for their happiness.
Yeah, and I think it's especially mindful of when you know a person is going through something, a hard time. For instance, a friend breaks up in a devastating way in a relationship. A friend loses a parent or a loved one that was very close to them. I think that's the time when you really got to reach down and give that person a little extra attention because you know they're going through a very hard time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just finding the balance between pushing them and to converse and just letting them know that you're here. You're a shoulder to lean on, especially during a breakup or a difficult situation like that, is really crucial. And also knowing when to somehow find the balance between doing that and backing off and just letting them know if they ever need your assistance to reach out.
Well, Rachel, I just want to let you know, because I'd love to have you there. You can bring Randy as well. Every September in Long Beach on the boardwalk, we have an annual event. It's called Let's Walk, Let's Talk, and it's all about raising awareness for suicide prevention. And usually, I've been touched in the past, a family member will get up and talk about their loved one and the loss of their loved one, and it's a great way to support suicide prevention and suicide awareness. So I hope to see you that Sunday in September here in Long Beach for Let's Walk, Let's Talk.
I'd love to be there. Thank you.
All right. Rachel Zloznik, folks, we thank her for her perspective. She was awesome, and she'll be back on the show in the future, raising awareness, suicide prevention. Great job, Rachel.
Thank you.